Welcome to the kitchen of chaos.
We are doing squash soup today, Portuguese style squash soup. There's two ways you can do this. You can peel the squash, butternut squash, with a really strong peeler and cube it up and simmer it, or you can bake it, roast it, which is what I'm going to do. So I've just put some salt and pepper, olive oil, and a little bit of honey or agave on here. I'm just going to bake it, roast it for maybe an hour until it's soft and easy to scoop out of there. And then we will, in the meantime, make the base for the soup out of garlic and onions. So pretty much the soup is garlic, onions, squash, and some chicken stock, and my secret weapon is a little bit of lemon juice at the end. So that's what we're going to do. Rock on! You gonna help? You want to dice up the onions for me?
I would. I'll bet the onions really good.
You're worthless. What are you good for anyway? Don't even know how to cook. Okay, so for the base of the soup you want some olive oil and chopped onions. Let those go for a little while, and then put in some chopped garlic, about 10 or 12 cloves, I guess. This is 2 medium onions or 1 big onion or whatever you want. These are yellow, but you can use whatever you want. So those are going to go in there. And you can put in a little bit of salt to get the onions releasing their liquid a little bit, and that helps them to cook a little bit quicker, in my opinion. You don't want them to brown. You just want to kind of slow saute them until they start to get a little bit clear. Let's take a look at these. So those are looking pretty good. The ones, I just rotated these because the ones near the fan, the convection fan, were a little bit, these guys down here are done. These ones are the ones that were close to the fan. And those ones are a little bit slightly firm still. Probably fine actually, but I'll let them cook for a little while longer until I get the onions ready. And then those will go in basically with the onions and garlic. So probably 10 minutes with the onions going. Alright, so it's been about 10 or so minutes, and the onions are somewhat translucent. I put the garlic in about 2 minutes after I put the onion in, and those are starting to brown on the sides. On the, gotta be careful sometimes on gas stoves, because the thin sides of the pot will actually get hotter than the base. So if it gets onion around the side, it will start to burn a little bit. You make sure you should keep the sides clean. And this is looking done. So I'm going to take these out and let them kind of sit for a second and cool off. I gave some to my wife for a delicious treat, which is one of the advantages of doing it this way. Is roasted butternut squash is about the best thing in the world. With a little bit of butter, salt, and pepper, bam, there's nothing better than that. So I'm just going to let these kind of sit till they get cool enough to handle, so I can scoop them in to the soup pot. Let that, so it doesn't burn. So the only other thing we're going to put in there is water, or if you have it, chicken stock is better. I use this stuff because it's great and it doesn't have MSG in it or anything else that you don't want. And I'm going to put a little bit of nutmeg, a very small amount of nutmeg and cinnamon. You don't have to do this. It's great with just onions, garlic, and squash, salt and pepper, and it really is highly delicious just like that. But you can put in a little bit of nutmeg, cinnamon, make it a little more of a fall soup if you want. I'll have a little bit of honey on this, so it kind of brings out the natural sweetness of the squash. And this is a little bit roasty toasty, so that'll get a little bit more of the caramelization flavor in there, and that kind of helps bring out the sweetness and complexity of the squash. It's really good. I've done this with other squash. The Portuguese, you do it with didn't have this kind of squash over there, but they do it with a bunch of different kinds of squash, and it's always really good. So you can't really make a mistake as long as you just get the salt and pepper right and have some nice crusty bread with it, man. You are going to be in heaven. So I'm going to put in enough water to cover the squash once I get it in the pot, and then add enough of this to match the water that I put in, and that'll help get a little bit more flavor, and it'll also get the salt about right. And then we'll just adjust it after that. One trick that you can do to help the squash jump out of its skin a little bit better is to cut around the edge with a very sharp knife. I just sharpened this one, and that'll help it pull away from the outer husk without, or the rind, without pulling that into your mixture, because you don't want that skin. But this stuff on top is fine, but you just don't want that skin to come off. So you just run your knife around the edge. That kind of helps it to separate and cool. This is still kind of cooling off. These ones here are a little bit more orange. I think it's because they're older. They've been sitting around my kitchen for a couple of weeks. And these ones I just bought. So anyway, and then you can use a big spoon or ice cream scoop. Works really well to scrape these, and you just kind of scoop it out and then get as much of it out as you can without getting the outer skin. So that's what we're going to be doing next. Alright, so we're just going to scoop some of the squash out. Careful, it stays hot for quite a while, but that's beautiful stuff. And then just once you can just kind of keep your eye open for the different color and texture of the outer skin, because you don't want that in there. It's very tough, but if you cook it long enough, it should just pull away from the, ouch, swear word, from the peeling really well. And this is a fantastic side dish, actually. People who haven't had real fresh roasted butternut squash, I mean, you really are missing out. And people say they don't like squash, but they've had, you know, the steakhouse squash that's been sitting around for 2 days, and it's pureed with whatever else they puree it with. But if you have real fresh roasted butternut squash with just put some butter on it, some salt and pepper, and they will change their mind about, ouch, about squash, because it is extremely good. So we're just going to keep doing that and scoop all those out into the pot, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so we scraped them all out. You can see the skins there, and put it in our pot. Now we're going to add a little bit of water. Let's try that much. You don't want it to be soupy, pun intended, but you want it to be kind of creamy and semi-rich. So we're going to puree this with a wand mixer, if I can find it. There it is. So let's, hold on a second.